Before you start the video, let me tell you about MalleableTimeline's Patreon and its benefits. We've got 3 tiers. Timeline Traveler, in which you will have access to an official schedule for videos, the ability to talk to Malleable himself, updates on videos and upcoming series, and our love and appreciation. Then there's Timeline Manager, in which you will have all the past benefits, plus early access to videos, access to bloopers, and your name displayed at the end of the videos. Lastly, we have Timeline Creator, in which the first 20 people will have the ability to suggest a comic from any franchise they want, and we'll dub it. This also includes a personalized shout-out at the start of the video to the person who suggested the comic. You'll also get one personalized message from any of our voice actors playing your favorite character we've dubbed before. We'll be waiting for you there. Now, continue to the video.
Denki, I need help.
Everything okay? I burnt my hand, so I can't text super fast, just so you know.
How do you tell someone how you feel?
Ooh, I see. You were checking out Momo, weren't ya?
It's not my fault. She just started smiling and my whole body heated up.
Have you checked Twitter? She seems worried about you, bro. I think she likes you.
Yaoyorozu has standards. I definitely do not meet those.
Dude, she told me she likes you. Didn't think Resident Pretty Boy would get all worked up over class mom.
She likes me? You're lying.
She told me in January after our midterms. Why do you think she only got a 98? She couldn't stop looking at you during the test.
Okay, I need to breathe. Maybe I shouldn't come back. I'll set the dorms on fire if I do.
Get your ass over here now. I'll make something work, but in the meantime, wait outside Sato's dorm. And if I don't see a red heart next to your Twitter profile by the end of today, I'll crawl into your bed and shock the shit out of you.
This is why I have a rubber blanket.
I'll take that as a thank you.
Kami reread the messages, chuckling to himself.
Resident Pretty Boy, you are a handful.
He whispered.
Put your phone down!
Jirou called from the counter. She sped-walked behind Kami before grabbing his hands and placing them in the ice bucket. The cold felt amazing on Denki's hands, but Jirou gave a small yelp as soon as her skin hit the ice.
Ah!
Denki giggled a little bit at that, but Jirou didn't care. The pain was worth it.
If you want these burns to heal, then you need to keep your hands in the bucket.
Jirou scolded. She completely forgot the position she was in when she saw Kami look at her with that goofy, lovable smirk. Jirou was holding Kaminari from behind, their fingers laced into each other's. Kami lowered his hands into the ice, giving Jirou a reason to move closer to the heat of his back, and make it harder for her to pull away from the weight of the ice.
Yes, ma'am,
Denki said, giving her a wink.
I don't see you moving your hands, though. Is the ice really not that cold?
I'm simply making sure you don't try and text whoever you were texting.
Jirou replied in a huff. She didn't want to blow her cover, and at the same time, she didn't want to let go.
Who were you texting?
Kami's phone buzzed, and he turned his head to read the message.
Here.
Was all it read. Kami searched for Yaoyorozu and saw her making cupcakes with Sato. He figured Sero left to use the bathroom and smoke another blunt.
Momo!
Denki yelled across the room.
Can you make sure Sero isn't dead in the bathroom?
Oh my, yes, I'll go check.
She said, obviously annoyed. Sato's dorm was the only one not to have a bathroom inside it. Instead, there was one just outside the hall, where Momo began pacing towards.
Operation TodoMomo is a go.
Denki chuckled. Jirou had put all the pieces together and began laughing at Kami, pressing in close to his back. At this point, her head was resting on his shoulder. He tilted his head to the side and gently placed his head on hers. Jirou looked the other way at Mina, who had made a quick heart shape with her hands at them to hide the blush spread across her face. Denki may not have noticed, but Jirou was in heaven. Yaoyorozu stomped out the door and made her way to the men's bathrooms. She knew Sero had a good heart, but this was a problem, especially for the people having to take care of his problem. He wouldn't ever admit it, but Sero was an addict. He needed help, maybe even counseling to get over this addiction. Instead, he just insisted that one day he would stop using it. Momo was outside the men's bathroom, banging aggressively on the door.
Sero! I swear to God, if you're high, I'm going to come in there and kick your ass myself!
Momo yelled. The door creaked open slightly. Yaoyorozu expected to see another baked roll of toilet paper, only to her surprise to see Shoto Todoroki standing in front of her. His face was flushed, no, puffy, almost as if he had been crying. His eyes grew wide as he stared at Momo, her hands covering her mouth. She had never seen him so upset, so distraught in her life. He was the type to suppress his emotions with a beautiful blank face. And yet, here he was standing, looking as if the world was about to end.
Sorry. Sero's in the furthest left stall. He's not high.
Todoroki said in a hushed whisper. He went to walk past Yaoyorozu until she pushed him against the wall, her hands placed just below his upper chest, her face tomato red, staring into his heterochromatic eyes.
Something's wrong, Shoto. I've never seen you like this before.
Momo asked. Her voice was trembling, and her hands sank deeper into his chest. She just wanted to embrace him, hold him until his scar healed permanently, or at least until the shade of red left his face. Shoto stammered. He didn't know what to say. The words that attempted the way out of his mouth were being sent back down his throat. Todoroki had rehearsed his lines in front of Sato's room. Then he broke down. The fear inside Shoto grew and overwhelmed his civil, collected self and forced him to go to the bathroom and think of the problem he had been from the very beginning. He wasn't good enough for his mother. He wasn't good enough for his father. What made him think that he would be enough for someone as perfect as Yaoyorozu? He looked up at the ceiling for a couple of seconds thinking of something. Anything to get out of this awkward standoff. He knew saying it was nothing would only arise more questions. Then, he remembered what Sero told him, as the completely sober boy watched him cry over the sink.
Start it off with something light, make her laugh, then you tell her.
Shoto took a deep breath, swallowing all his self-doubt in one gulp. He looked into Yaoyorozu's eyes, placing his hands around her waist. Maybe he was going too fast, but Momo moved closer, the blush becoming increasingly obvious. Shoto gave her a smile before beginning his confession.
Do you remember the last time we tried baking?
Todoroki asked. Momo looked at him with a little bit of confusion in her face, but answered honestly.
Of course. We were making a cake for Bakugo's birthday and you nearly set it on fire.
Momo said, giggling at the thought.
Do you know why that happened?
Shoto asked again, this time with a little more emphasis on the why.
No. I never really thought about why it happened. Everyone was searching for a fire extinguisher and I couldn't stop worrying. You almost never use the left side of your body.
Momo whispered. She was still worried about what was going on. Maybe his father said something to him that caused Shoto to erupt. She didn't want to get her hopes up, but the position they had themselves in made her daydream as his grip around her waist tightened. Todoroki took one of his hands off her hips and took out the elastic that kept her ponytail intact. Momo's long hair flowed like a waterfall to the floor. It ended just above Shoto's other hand, where he playfully twirled a strand of it.
I saw your hair down for the first time when it happened. You looked as beautiful then as you do now.
Todoroki murmured.
I saw you smile today, and my body just reacted, to say the least. You look perfect. You are perfect. And I need you to know that.
Todoroki brought both his hands to cup her face. Yaoyorozu melted into them as her palms found the back of his neck.
I have been having trouble sleeping recently. I'd wake up to my ice quirk activating and freezing my bedsheets. At first I thought it was simply developing, but when my fire part started acting up, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. There's a part of me that's always cold when you're not around. Momo, you are my fire. You are what keeps my heart warm, not my quirk.
Tears began falling from Todoroki's eyes as he dropped his head in embarrassment.
This was too much for her,
he told himself. Yaoyorozu lifted his chin to meet her lips with his. The kiss was soft and blissful. She held the back of his head and pushed into it to deepen their kiss. When Momo came out of it for air, she watched Todoroki light up, literally. His shirt was starting to turn to ash before he noticed and froze the remains. She began laughing, tears streaming from her face. She was so happy that she didn't care about the heat.
You're missing 3 words, Shoto dear,
she said through happy sobs. Todoroki pulled her in for another kiss, lifting her off the ground. When he put her back down, Shoto leaned into her ear to hide his sobbing.
I love you,
Todoroki whispered. His body trembled, and Yaoyorozu could feel the warm streams flow down her shoulder, where he had buried his head. She knew he had probably never knew affection like this. She pulled him in closer, rubbing his back and playing with his hair.
I'm not giving up on you,
she soothingly declared.
I love you so much.
They stayed there for a couple of minutes, in nothing but the sound of their own joyful tears, before walking back inside Sato's dorm.